Previously on the Football Ramble.
I make exactly this of it. Thomas Tuchel wants the Man United job.
Yeah.
Thomas Tuchel's people and Thomas Tuchel are trying to force Man United's hand by saying to Man United, it's not going to get any better for Erik ten Hag. You know it. I know it. You need to make a move. If you don't make a move, my client is very, very likely to take the England job and you'll miss him. I find it very difficult to believe at this point that the FA are in negotiations with Thomas Tuchel.
And did you listen to the brilliant interviewer tactic there? Just keep it going.
I thought you agreed. I thought you were strongly agreed.
And that's what a lot of the best interviewers do.
It's not
enough rope to hang himself, and my goodness, he's strung up this morning, everybody. Look more, how do you respond?
Listen, lads, I'm out here making big calls. I'm out here making big calls. Every single day.
Every day.
And they're not always right. They're hardly ever right.
Yes.
You could also use an example of me saying Harry Kane will never go to Bayern Munich as well. What is it about the England-Germany crossover that I can't quite get right?
It blinds you, doesn't it?
Well, to the production staff, I'd say, Dankeschön.
I need everyone out there in the Luke Nation to support me in this dark hour. I need them to rally around me and say, listen, Luke, it's all right. Not everyone gets it right all the time.
We're still marching.
But at least you're out there making big calls.
Look, it's apparently going to be announced at 1:30 today. It's currently 19 minutes past 9 in the morning. It's not over.
I'm not wrong. I'm not actually wrong. I'm not technically wrong as we sit here now.
Honestly,
come back to me tomorrow, mate.
I'll tell you what, Luke, if for whatever reason it doesn't happen,
I've kept pretty quiet up till now.
That'd be the greatest victory in the history of the Luke Nation.
If it falls through, I will be driving in my car to all of your houses and bringing you personally back to the studio.
I'll set up a studio in the street.
Not my finest hour, but listen, sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't.
Yeah, well, as Jim said, the FA are expected to unveil Tommy Tuchel at 1:30 this afternoon, because it was reported last night that Tuchel has agreed to become the new England manager. My goodness, Jim Campbell, you're back in the Ramble studio. England have a new permanent manager. Obviously, Lee Carsley has still got a couple of muggy little games left.
He must be really confused based on what we've heard from him.
I said I wanted it, or did I? Well, perhaps it's maybe a little bit more understandable, although I stress only a little bit more understandable about Lee Carsley's comments. But today is not about Carsley, Jim. It's about Thomas Tuchel.
Yeah, I'm so surprised by this. I was kind of, to be honest, I felt the same as Luke. I thought Tuchel was always a sort of unlikely link, and just one of the names on a very long list that the FA would have liked as manager.
Can I say short list, Jim?
Yeah, shortish list. I would assume it is, because you got
it's a list.
Every top manager, I would imagine, was on it.
If it's between a short list and a long list, it's just a list.
True.
Yeah.
Just call it a list.
Yeah. Medium list.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. I wouldn't be surprised if Arrigo Sacchi was on that list, like the way they kind of operate. But I think it's a really exciting appointment because he is a great character, as we know. He is incredible at knockout football. We know that. It's going to be really box office, really entertaining. And he's used to playing with squads packed full of talent. In a way that the England squad hasn't always been, but currently is. So it's a really nice fit. And I think if you have to ignore all the jingoism. I mean, we've said on this show before ourselves, like I think we would all broadly prefer the England manager to be English, because the idea is that it's the best of your nation against the best of other nations. But that's not a hard and fast rule. The FA have obviously looked around and gone, you know what? Don't think there's anybody good enough to get what we need out of these players, and that's fair enough. And if he's not English, I don't care if he's a dog. Like if he's got the qualifications. If he's good enough, then...
Unlikely to have the qualifications.
It's unlikely.
Sorry, Jim, I wasn't expecting to have to say this, just on behalf of myself as part of this show.
Yeah.
Marcus, I do care if it's a dog. But you carry on.
All right, well...
What type of dog?
You're both forgetting Lassie and how good that dog was at all kinds of different things. But yeah, I think that he's going to have to weather the sort of storm of tabloid nonsense about his nationality.
Already happening.
Yeah, exactly. It's already happening.
It's not as bad as it used to be, but it'll still be
and
there.
it's not as bad as it's going to be. But it has started already.
Yes.
But yeah, I think it's a really exciting appointment. To be honest, I'm surprised they could get someone as good as Tuchel.
Not as bad as it used to be. The back page of the Daily Mail today, a dark day for England. 3 Lions gamble on a German.
Is that what they actually put?
That's what it seems. A gamble.
That seems to be it. There, look.
Yeah, okay.
He's the best manager realistically available.
Yeah.
The odds are pretty good on that gamble.
Yeah, so I understand what you mean, Jim. Well, Luke, you haven't really had your say.
I think I've said enough.
I think you have. I'd like to see what you think about this, because obviously you thought it wasn't going to happen. It has happened, or it's very much expected to happen at 1:30. We're duty bound to say.
I thought it wasn't going to happen, and it still hasn't happened. Correct. Carry on.
But for most people,
and I'm not in on Friday.
No.
So and then the Premier League will be back.
I think you will be in on Friday if it doesn't go through.
Yeah.
But what do you think, though? They've gone for Thomas Tuchel. Obviously, Guardiola, everyone thought it was a bit of a pipe dream. I was kind of trying to talk it up a little bit, trying to will it into existence, but that's not going to happen now. As Jim has said, and a lot of people have said, that if you can't get Guardiola, and Klopp made it absolutely clear that he's now Red Bull's man.
He's got wings.
Indeed he has. Really, the next best group of managers, you'd probably look at maybe Ancelotti, who's not really been linked, and Tuchel would be one of them.
He would, and I'm not against the idea of him per se, but as I said yesterday,
it's his nationality.
I don't want it to be a foreign manager for jingoistic reasons. I just think that I want England to continue the work they've done in bringing their own coaches through, and it's been a pretty barren wasteland traditionally since we've been doing this show when it comes to the amount of good quality English coaches that we've had. And that's been addressed somewhat in recent years. And Southgate's, of course, set the example for that. And I wish, as I said before, people are probably tired of me saying it now, but I'll just repeat it very quickly. I wish there'd a succession plan in place. And the reason my point is that they're going for Tuchel because the succession plan hasn't been good enough. Now, it may not be entirely their fault the succession plan has not been good enough, because maybe they did have all their eggs in the Kazi basket and he's not proven himself to be up to it off the pitch, particularly in my view. But they, as I said to Marcus yesterday, Jim, they could have, once Carsley won the under-21s Euros, it was the Euros, wasn't it,
yes,
not the World Cup, they could have had him in for a year and brought another under-21s coach coming through, because that's always going to be a developmental job anyway, and he could have been far more prepared for it, and he could have been knowing he was going to have it, and it could have been a lot more friction-free, frictionless. So that hasn't happened. And my fear about this is not that Thomas Tuchel isn't a good coach, because I think he is. Although I don't know if he's the right fit on how he tends to work, which maybe we can come on to. But I think it feels to me like it's ripped up what the good work was in the past, which actually, relatively speaking, I know there's not been any trophies, but relatively speaking, has been more successful. I don't know why they're not far more long-term plan focused than what they have been, because it feels a bit to me like, right, Carsley's done what he's done and now we're panicking a bit and we're just going to rip it up and go and find the best coach we can. Look, I understand Portugal have done that. I understand Belgium have done that to an extent as well. Neither of them have won any trophies either doing that. So to me, it just feels like it should be far more internal, because the FA is probably the most famous
well, it is.
International association in the world, and I think we could probably do better than this. Not because Tuchel's not a great coach, because I think he is, and not because he hasn't had success, because obviously he has. But to me, it just feels like a bit of a step backwards rather than another step forward.
I understand why you're saying that, but I think that's a bit too cynical, if I'm honest, because the idea that FA have ripped it up, I don't think they have ripped it up. I think the FA, they've overhauled a lot of stuff. We see some of the players that England are producing. That's not just down to the FA, that's Premier League elite player performance plan, or whatever it's called, which is a controversial one, but still, clubs as well producing their own players. Manchester City producing a lot of young talent. Da-di-da-di-da. But the FA certainly have overhauled a lot of what they did when I think it was it the Germany under 21s when they battered them in the Euros final, and in the World, Germany beat England in the World Cup in South Africa. Thought, right, for crying out loud, we've waited long enough. Yeah, the coaches are yet to come. There are certain positions on the pitch where you think maybe lack a little that type of player, but certainly England are producing more ball-playing, flary type players than we've seen in generations.
But that's not what I'm saying.
But I'm coming on to what you're saying. And so the missing piece, so they've improved a lot, and you see the fruits of it, but the missing piece is the coaches that they're not quite producing. And that is something that they have turned their attention to. And I think in this moment, they thought, right, Carsley is the best at the moment. Let's give him a go. While talking to Tuchel, they were talking to Guardiola, or trying to at least, in the summer, and so these conversations have been going on, and I think that's fair due diligence, because I think they're looking around thinking the coaching, the coaches that we've been trying to produce haven't come through.
Yeah, the gap's
yet.
Too big still.
The gap is too big, exactly, Jim. Now you can blame whoever you want there. You can just say, well, that's just tough luck. Unfortunately, there's nobody come through, or FA, you need to up it. Whoever you want to blame, and I think that Carsley was given a little bit of a taste of the biscuit. It proved to be too strong a taste for him, but who knows in a few years. I know he's not the youngest of men, but still, there's time if indeed that was to happen.
Wasn't his type of biscuit, was it? No.
Perhaps not. I think he was unaware there was a biscuit at times. But so I understand why they've gone for Tuchel, but there's also the small matter of the current England squad. And I think the FA, as we all were burned by the whole golden generation, and that generation didn't win a trophy, and that was a real chance. And of course, England will always produce good players, but they may not produce them to the same level. And they look at what they have at the moment in this England squad. And the expectation is higher than it's ever been. We go back to just briefly to the golden generation. The expectation was there because you had big names. But the expectation now is, well, we've seen them in 2 finals. You've seen them do it. And I mean, Gareth Southgate's England in the last Euros didn't play well at all, really, and yet got all the way to the final. A slightly kind of draw. You can't, dismiss that. But however, that can happen, as it did. And I think that they're looking at this going, for crying out loud, the massive King Kong-sized monkey on their back is this lack of winning a trophy. By the time the World Cup comes along, and we assume, or we hope, England qualify, it'll be 30 years since Baddiel and Skinner, the 3 lines, it's coming home. The same amount of time that it had been from 1966 to 1996. Yep. And if you total that up, it's 60 years.
It is.
And that's maths.
That's one thing we can all agree on.
You can't argue with that. So I think that they've looked at it all, and I think this is a, if you like, almost a reluctant appointment. I think we all wanted to see maybe Carsley or somebody do well.
Felt like his to lose.
It did
after the first 2 games, and then he lost it.
Well, quite.
I find that part of it the main vehicle for my criticism of the FA in this, because it feels to me completely fanciful that they don't know Carsley and his personality and all the rest of it, and they should have been better at coaching him and giving him help for that stuff.
But we are assuming that this was let's give him a trial, and if he's good, then he'll take it. It could well be that they looked around at the lie of the land and thought, no, we need to...
But they still could have said to him, this is going to be a lot of scrutiny on you. This is.
Well, they would have done it, but he was media trained to the teeth, according to a lot of people.
Right, okay.
And you know what it's like? It's the old Mike Tyson. Everyone's got a plan until they get punched in the face.
Yeah, and it's a completely unique situation.
This media world isn't for everyone.
Indeed, yeah.
You can only at the top, I'm telling you.
You can only prepare for it so much.
Yeah. Indeed, Jim, indeed. And so...
Fair enough.
I think that when all's said and done, and Thomas Tuchel has been given the job, I actually do agree with you, Jim, when you said I think it's an exciting appointment. Yes, there is that kind of thing we bemoan of, could we not have given it? Because even if you do give it to Potter or Howe, the fact is they just happen to be English. It would still be bringing someone in from the outside a little bit more. So you hire a manager who has managed in England, is often referred to as an Anglophile because he loved his time here. He loved, apparently, according to reports, he loved the kind of more personality-driven side of the game. I mean, you're talking about Carsley not knowing what to the media. Tuchel will bloody love it.
He loves it.
He absolutely relishes
and he's really good at it. And
at Chelsea, I mean, how great a statesman was he for them during that incredibly tricky time?
Well, getting stuck in the Conte as well.
Yeah,
come on.
And he was a part of the whole situation where it led to Graham Souness saying, "We've got our game back." Well, Jim, thanks to a German, could it be we've got our country back?
It could well be.
Said in a Scottish accent as well.
But I'd love it if he was to deliver the first trophy to England in 60 years, and in the post-match interview, he starts going about how Britain needs to be back in the EU. The tabloids would explode.
They wouldn't know what to do.
No, they wouldn't know what to do. They'd have to fold. They'd have to fold.
If you offered me a referendum tomorrow, I'd take it.
Yeah.
So, Marcus, on the idea of England having a foreign manager, just if we can sort of go back through time a little bit, would you have liked it if Sven had won the World Cup with England, for example?
Yeah.
Do you think you'd have been able to be on board with that?
I do, yeah. Capello as well, although slightly more unlikely, of course. I think the whole idea of looking at Eriksson and Capello, I think it's a bit pointless, really.
Might as well compare them to any English manager.
Yeah, I mean,
the eras are so different.
I mean, it would be like if Scotland fans were, we don't hire a German. I mean, look what happened to us and Bertie Vogt. It's kind of like, it was nothing to do with Thomas Tuchel.
No. It'd be nice for him to get a mention, though.
It would be, yeah. And to be fair, actually, I don't think any Scotland fans have said anything like that, and will ever, quite frankly. But
well, to be honest, put it in perspective. When Scottish producer Rory, when I walked in this morning, he was talking about Gary Caldwell.
He was.
So that's the kind of level there.
Yeah, we had to campaign to get this as the opening story.
Exactly.
He thought holding Portugal to a 0-0 was the big news. But yeah, so look, Tuchel, I think it's not a bad fit. Obviously, only time will tell. But with Tuchel, you look at the cup campaigns that he's had. Now, okay, he lost a couple of penalty shootouts to Liverpool. Well, with England, he's got more chance to win a penalty shootout. Now he's England manager.
It's got nothing to do with anything.
He knows how to navigate through knockout games really, really well, and he's proved it across a number of competitions.
My feeling is, I mean, and you guys are probably saying that he's a good. You think on the, and obviously we can't predict the future, so you're giving it your best guess, and I totally understand that. But you're saying that because you feel like he's the best qualified, most experienced. And as they say in the US, winningest coach of the available options. But to me, there's red flags. The red flags would be that he's very detail orientated and he's very used to working at the cut and thrust, the top of club football, which is very, very different to international football. And you and I spoke about this, Marcus, a bit yesterday, talked about how the international role now is more of a kind of custodial role almost, because you can't get stuck into their detail because you don't get any time with the players.
You can have
you could probably do a bit of it, but it's not the same, is it?
No.
And the second bit is, I think that, if you look at some of the some of his ex-players over the years talking about what he can be like, I wouldn't be massively surprised.
A handful of his ex-players.
But it's
sure, and you've got to be careful because some of the players...
Harry Kane really likes him. Yeah, for example.
Because he wasn't there very long.
Yeah. Chance for Eric Dyer to get back in.
It's a Mourinho-style cycle, isn't it? There's a sort of Mourinho-style
like that.
kind of...
It feels like after a certain amount of time, he starts to demand so much that the players can't necessarily give it. Now, and I think you're right to say that, Marcus, what you said earlier, because I think you have to read the runes a little bit when you hear about players talking about it, because a lot of them just don't like it because they're not being picked or whatever, or they're being asked to play in a position they don't want to play, etc. But I do think it's something in it. It's happened constantly through his career. So that's we could see... I don't think, and bearing in mind, under Southgate, this is why I'm bringing it up really, because under Southgate, it was all very kind of, everyone come in, you're all part of this, someone go get the unicorn, do you know what I mean? It's like that.
Where's Ed Sheeran?
I wouldn't be surprised if Thomas Tuchel smashes fucking Ed Sheeran over the head with his own guitar.
But this is where the FA come in, and actually they shouldn't let him do that. Jim, you and I often refer to it as the FA need to have like a civil service, everything there, and they kind of do really.
A head of culture.
More bureaucracy. Exactly. But the fact is that for England, when they do play away from home and indeed go and play at tournaments, it's like, no, Thomas, the unicorns come with us. We have the dartboard, and we'll let you veto Ed Sheeran if you want.
You can bring Ramstein.
There you go.
Yeah. Hey? Ramstein play while Thomas Tuchel fights Ed Sheeran. To show who's really boss.
I would love to hear that Thomas Tuchel has wrapped a guitar around whichever singer-songwriter's coming in that week's head.
Yeah.
Just because I think it'd be a bit different, wouldn't it?
It certainly would be different. But
the players aren't getting better by listening to Ed Sheeran. It's not happening.
So. What about a Ramstein tribute act called Aaron Ramstein?
Sure.
Okay.
Like it.
I think we can all agree.
So instead of doing it in German, they're doing it in Welsh. That'd be brilliant. That's a great shout.
I was actually thinking of Aaron Ramsdale.
Yeah.
But there we are.
Did you say Aaron Ramsey? Oh, you said Aaron Ramstein. I went Aaron Ramsey.
I don't know why.
Yeah, chiefly because I saw the Wales game the other night.
That's fair enough. But look, bollocks.
Aaron Ramsdale's nowhere near England. Team.
And probably injured. But all bollocks aside, I do think it's a decent appointment, and I think that yes, there's that feisty side of Thomas Tuchel, but there is also an incredibly good coach and a coach that has proved his worth. I mean, we really, the Chelsea example is there when it was a bit of a tricky situation. Winning that Champions League is the sort of achievement of his career. I'd argue that they should have won the Champions League when his last season at Bayern, when they were up against, should have won the first leg. It was a Manuel Neuer era, and they would have beaten Dortmund in the final. Would have, should have.
It was very close.
But he shows that in those one-off games, he can mould his tactics and do it. And that is very, very important, of course, with international football. So when all's said and done, yes, I think it's good. I think it's probably wise that he starts, in the new year? Am I right in saying? So it's from there to the end of the World Cup, it would be about 18 months. So if he is going to go mad and start pissing people off, I think we've just got enough time.
You think the cycle would spread out over
You'd hope so, Jim.
Right?
Well, you'd certainly hope so.
You might have 9 years before it all goes...
Indeed. But he
up
will,
in flames.
But he will be more entertaining to the media, despite, I'm talking about nationality, but just the way he is, with his charisma, of course. His style of leadership and management is very, very different to what those England players have had. And sometimes, actually, if you get Southgate 2.0 with somebody else, people... sometimes you do need something totally different. Time will tell, of course. But I do think, I look at this and I think it's quite exciting. In terms of well, wouldn't it have been nice for an Englishman to to win something? Well, of course it would. I mean, we're talking as if Thomas Tuchel's going to win the World Cup. I mean, it seems still unlikely from where I'm sitting, but who knows? Of course it would be, but I think England, you said yourself, Luke, the other day, it is the holy grail, certainly, of international football.
It is, definitely.
To get England to win a trophy. And a lot of managers would look at that and think, oh, blimey, that is very, very tempting
Rubik's
indeed.
Cube, isn't it?
Exactly, yeah. So if he's the man that can have a damn good go at it, then so be it.
Good news for Man City fans as well. They'll probably get another year of Pepe.
Seems to be the case, yeah.
Pepe G will be there for another year.
Indeed, yeah. And also as well, I think it's good that England now have a manager in at the start of the World Cup qualifiers, because we were speaking the other day thinking, if Guardiola does fancy it or Eddie Howe does fancy it and they go for him, it would be at the end of the season they would get him. And there's a quick turnaround end of season to the next qualifiers. So
I think that's a big part of this appointment as well, because anyone else would have to come out of a job. It would be really, really awkward, very unlikely in the case of some of them as well. Can I just say as well, Thomas, please hire a full-time security team for your bins.
Yeah.
It's like, just
that lot are going to be
leave
dickheads
nothing
about it.
to chance.
They're going to be dickheads.
Don't use
You're going to be
your bins.
ratty little men
just
hanging around.
Eat all your rubbish. Don't just become a recycle bin. Don't.
Strong passwords.
Yeah, 100%.
Give us a few examples.
Yeah.
Oh, dearie me. Well, there'll be a lot more Thomas Tuchel and England chat in the months to come, I'm sure.
It's going to haunt me for some time, I would have thought.
Indeed it will. Coming up after this, Cristiano Ronaldo throws a strop at Hampden. See you in a moment.
Good morning, England! Tell us something your mum doesn't know. Yeah.
Thomas Tuchel's first interview since becoming England manager there. Scotland 0, Portugal 0. A point for the Tartan Army, their first point of the 2024 Nations League. Everybody seemed fairly content at full time, apart from Cristiano Ronaldo and most of the Portugal team, to be fair.
All-time wobbly from him.
Oh, it was great.
39 and he's still adding to the highlights.
All because he thought that time should have been added on to take the corner, which clearly the laws of the game state no, only a penalty. The penalty is the only thing that time could be added on.
Yeah, but Marcus, he wanted it.
True.
Yeah. So there's, on one level, it is quite impressive at this age, given all he's achieved, how much he still desperately wants to win.
His desire is, I think, the most impressive thing about the guy, on one hand.
But at what cost?
Yes.
You know what I mean? At what cost for a 39-year-old man with a family? Do you know what I mean? Probably watching.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
It's ridiculous. And
imagine the strops his kids throw.
It went on
with that example,
mate, it went on for ages as well. It went on for minutes.
He walked. Obviously he was stood in the box wanting the corner to be taken, and he walked down the tunnel still stropping.
Yeah.
Over a corner.
He should have been. He wasn't booked in the game, but he should have been booked for that because he sarcastically applauded officials a load of times.
He should have done. Yeah. Do you know why I think that he was stropping? Obviously, he didn't score on all the. He's still not scored on Scottish soil.
Is that it?
And I bet you he's aware of that, and he thought tonight's the night.
It's like Elvis. Elvis only ever visited Britain once, and that was
when he was in the army,
an airport in Scotland.
Yeah,
that was it.
Yeah.
It's like his Elvis's resume when it comes to Scotland is also very poor.
Did Elvis strop? Did he when he got back on the?
I imagine he probably did.
Yeah.
Probably thought, "Fucking, what's this weather?
I want to play a gig here." It's like you're not even
Prestwick Airport. Apparently, it was. There you go.
So, in the same way that Diego Maradona has Scotland involved in his story, so does Cristiano Ronaldo now.
The Scottish took Diego to.
I was going to say, I'm not sure,
in quite a dissimilar way to this. Let's be fair. Like, also, Diogo Jota again. He's the real victim. As
started though,
farmed out wide and then subbed off.
Well, I mean, if he's not going to score,
true.
Come on, pull your weight, son.
Sorry, he's not allowed to score.
Let me rephrase that. If you're not going to put one on for Ronaldo to score, you can go off.
It's brilliant, isn't it?
Yeah. I just thought it was remarkable. Also, he had like a really weird game as well. At one point, he
what
tried
was that free kick.
It was so good.
Yeah, he tried describe it to him to people who haven't seen it.
So Nuno Mendes and Cristiano Ronaldo are stood over the same free kick. It's the sort of one that you would whip in with a bit of curl into the box, and essentially, I think Mendes goes to take it, or it's even that he goes to tap it to Ronaldo, but Ronaldo goes to sort of whip it in. So essentially, they just sort of make an absolute hash of it. Everyone in Scotland is going, ah! Literally everyone, dead people from their graves are going, ah! And he just throws a strop on the pitch.
He can't see what's happening because his Ronaldo's eyes are full of hot, salty tears.
I thought that they were. I thought it was at first was a tribute to the free kick that Gordon Strachan, and I forget who the other person person was.
Well, they pretend to bump into each other.
And they referred to it as the fuck up.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
they said, right, let's do it the fuck up.
Yeah.
And they did it to some aplomb in, it was Aberdeen versus Bayern in a game years
It's quite
and
a
years ago.
famous free kick.
Yeah, and I thought it was a tribute to that. Maybe that's what Mendes was going for, and Ronaldo was like, I don't do tributes to anybody.
Yeah, he probably thought to myself, if I want to have some success on Scottish soil, I'm going to need to channel my inner Gordon Strachan.
Indeed, yeah. We've all
Makes
done
sense.
it.
It absolutely makes sense.
Varying levels of success.
But great result for Scotland, finally.
And how about Craigie Gordy in goal, keeping a clean sheet?
41. Yeah, he made a
41.
great save. Like,
Older than Ronaldo.
Yeah.
Do you think he kept calling Ronaldo young man? Why would he use that accent?
Brian Clough. Do it again.
He was like, young man. Throughout the whole game.
couldn't speak, is it?
Something you're going to ask about for a dinner.
Hello.
Are you going to score, young man? Or are you just going to piss about? So yes, either way, it was a better night for Craig Gordon.
Yeah.
Good to see him.
Yeah.
Very agile still at 41. I know he's a
He
professional
made a
footballer
save
still.
with like every part of his body at one
Yes,
point.
Yeah, you
Very
need to.
impressive.
You need to, Jim. If you want a point in the Nations League, you've got to fight for everyone.
Well, they were looking at, I think, was it 5 defeats in a row, Scotland, which had never happened before for them internationally.
really?
So this is massive.
Also,
Massive is a bit too strong.
Large.
large.
It's large.
Is it large?
No.
Marcus, we accept large. Is it extra large?
Not extra large, no.
Large?
I'd say it's medium large.
It's medium large. Jim.
Medium large.
Will you accept medium large?
No, I think it's large. I'm going to
Okay,
hold
fine.
firm on this.
Fine.
Okay.
It's a shame they didn't win, of course, because
Yeah.
really that was what they were after. But of course, playing against a very good Portugal side.
Did the best thing that happened to
Who've got their
Ronaldo-
eyes on another Nations League trophy win. You would imagine that they're
have.
going to top the group and then through to the playoffs and off you go. They know how to win it.
No one cares today.
Who doesn't?
No one cares. Jim, do you care?
Speak to the
Not really.
Portuguese.
No, Jim, did you remember that they'd won the Nations League before?
I might have done if you'd
I
like waterboarded me.
Beat Netherlands in the final 1-0.
Yeah, Marcus, I would just like to say that Cristiano Ronaldo, the most enjoyment he had
Yeah.
was when he getting stuck into that water slide at the Portugal team
That was-
camp.
he really
nice to know
enjoyed
that
that,
even
didn't
he, you know,
One of his
could get
teammates
on board
must
with
have
the
filmed
water
that
slide. Yeah.
because it seems like it would be a bit invasive otherwise. And
And no,
yeah.
he obviously thought, because people say I don't enjoy myself. Quickly get the cameras. I'll enjoy this.
No, but what's annoying about it is that the video stopped before we saw him pop out.
What, as in,
So you see him
as in
climbing
his
up-
old boy pop out?
No,
sorry.
no. I'll come on to that in a minute.
Okay.
No, he climbs up the stairs to the water slide,
Yeah,
gets
right.
in, everyone goes,
sorry, yeah.
"Whee!" And then the video stops, or at least the one I saw stops before he pops out the end.
Yeah, well, obviously something happened.
Well, it's being shot
He's
through
stuck in there.
through a window, isn't it?
Yeah.
No, is it really?
It looked that way to me.
In which case it is invasive then.
Yeah.
Oh, well. Well, it's out there. So we didn't put it out there.
No, we didn't.
We're just commenting on it, Jim.
Yeah.
Again, the video, not his old chap, which I presume has got another little Ronaldo head on the end of it, like a Pez dispenser.
Crying. Because they drew against Scotland.
Oh, Bennett.
Yeah. Probably leave that there, shouldn't we?
Yeah. Let's move on swiftly. Northern Ireland 5, Bulgaria 0. Don't mess with the Green and White Army.
Large or massive?
This is massive.
This is ginormous.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you why, Jim, because the last time Northern Ireland won 5-0 at home, George Best scored a hat-trick against Cyprus in April 1971. And of course, the young man, Isaac Price, got a priceless hat-trick in this game. The third one was a peach.
And there were so many good goals in this game.
Yeah, they were all peach adjacent
It
at
was
least.
an incredible performance.
What I
Fruity goals.
absolutely love about this kind of thing is when the goals are flying in and Price gets that beauty from 25 yards in the top corner, McGuinness comes on and he's like, I'm getting involved. Yeah. It's for some reason, it elevates everybody.
one of
And he
those
crashes one in off the bar. And he's
Yeah.
like,
That was
bloody
a
hell.
beauty as well.
Was,
I think
wasn't it?
the second one, they probably would have had a penalty, but they don't need it. Just stick it away.
Not bothered.
exactly, yeah.
Absolutely not bothered. And what I also like about it is it's made me think about what it would have been like going out on the piss with Georgie Best in April 1971 after he scored a hattie.
Come on.
That would be great.
Come on.
It would be great.
You're right.
In the 70s, it would have been
Yeah.
great.
You'd have had no idea what was to come.
Exactly.
All right, fair.
Yeah.
And also as well, Bulgaria undefeated in 9 matches before this game, and they'd kept a clean sheet in 5.
I think
I'll
the
tell you
real
what.
story here, Marcus, is that we could find. I mean, it's probably unlikely given that England have kind of turned it around. Northern Ireland could find themselves in Group B of the Nations League.
Well, they're on.
They're
for
probably
it,
going to
aren't
win their group.
They are on for it.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I can see.
You can't overlook a tricky tie against Luxembourg.
I don't know. I mean, yeah, you can't. But so England need to go to Greece and obviously win.
Yeah.
And then it goes to head rather than goal difference. So it depends. England would need to score at least 2 goals out there. And I don't know.
Do not ask Lee Carsley about the potential fucking ramifications.
Yeah, but this is what I mean. I think
he'll be so confused.
Lee Carsley will confuse us and he'll play for the draw or something. That's a good solid point. I don't know. Poor old Lee. Come on.
Yeah.
He deserves better than that.
Yeah.
But anyway, Northern Ireland, great win for them. Great night after they perhaps felt they should have won against, was it Belarus when they drew 0-0 the other day? Cool, blimey. Get on that.
Also, Michael O'Neill's second stint, his win percentage is higher than it was in his first stint.
Oh.
So he's gone straight back into it where it picked up where he left off.
Could be a good omen for England if Gareth Southgate fancies it in a couple of years.
Could be. Only you could draw that distinction from that.
Wales 1, Montenegro 0, Jim.
This was the Harry Wilson show.
I love him. He's a great player. He's a lovely lad. And his penalty, of course, was enough for Wales to beat Montenegro. I mean, obviously, a one goal. The only scarier lead in football is a 2-0 advantage, of course.
Yes.
So
No one wants that.
No.
Absolutely not.
When I go and watch my team,
Yeah.
the last thing I say before
Keep it 1-0.
for the referee blows the whistle is I'd hate to be 2-0 up.
Yeah, exactly.
Sometimes, if Arsenal go 1-0 down, I'm like, well, at least we can't go 2-0 up.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's what people don't really mind if you go 1-0 down because of that reason.
Indeed, yeah. But that solitary Wilson penalty was enough, and he became the first Welshman to score in 3 successive games for his country since Gareth Bale at Euro 2016.
I mean, he was absolutely magnificent in this game.
Well, Craig Bellamy called him a footballer's footballer.
That's nice. That's a
Yeah.
nice tribute. He was everywhere. He ran the show. He won the penalty himself. He laid on chances for other players that they should have scored, but they didn't.
Yeah.
He ended up doing the job off his own back. Really encouraging as well for a team that does probably need, given the profile of team they are, someone to inherit that mantle from like the big players like Bale and Ramsey and stuff like that. He is definitely capable of doing it.
He takes responsibility, doesn't he? And he suits it as well.
I watched this game with the Welsh commentary.
Yeah.
I say the game, the extended highlights, the Welsh commentary. And it was amazing because I couldn't understand anything that was being said, but I was getting the player names familiar to me. I was getting the atmosphere from the commentator getting excited.
It's great.
And I didn't have to worry about it. It was actually, I recommend it.
Yes, and presumably you didn't have to listen to Robbie Savage either.
Or Darren Fletcher.
Oh, yeah, some result.
It's a bonus, isn't it?
Yeah, Harry Wilson. I said before, didn't I, that to give him the sort of the keys to this team is crucial because for a while, I think, due to the whole sort of Bale business and so on, we talked about that. He wasn't utilised as perhaps he could have been. But now look at him; he's perhaps their star player. Or I know they've got 1 or 2 others. Craig Bellamy now unbeaten in his first 4 games as Wales manager. His team has scored 5 goals in that time, all coming in the first half of matches.
As Pete was saying.
Pete was saying that, well, he talked about a drop-off
In the second half. That's the way he would look at it, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, I suppose against Iceland he was correct.
Glass is half pointless.
So I'm going to smash it over my own head
Yeah, indeed.
and bleed to death.
Well, when asked about the significance of his unbeaten start, Craig Bellamy said, "I don't feel like that. Please play that down. It's really not." I mean, the numbers speak for themselves, Craig. You're unbeaten. I had a good few months to prepare for these games. So he's saying, "Look, when I've got..." But then he'll also have, between, the November games and March games, he'll have time to prepare. So, Craig, that's just the way
That's how
international football is, isn't it? But I think fair play to him for trying to play that down because it's added pressure, isn't it? I think it also says a lot that he's managed to convince Joe Allen to come out of retirement because clearly everyone's looking at this Wales team thinking, I want to be here. This looks great. This feels like essentially the beginning of another adventure. And he's just created such a sort of feel-good factor in the camp, and it's great.
Which was beginning to subside a little bit under Page towards the end of his time. Although, he did a largely good job with Wales, but you're right to say that.
Does also make me think that we might see Craig sub himself on at some point.
Oh, now you're talking.
I don't know.
It's all building up to that.
I think if it was Bellamy of maybe kind of Vincent Company, taking him under his wing, maybe. But I think he's too humble.
No, I think he's going to keep calling up older and older players until it seems reasonable.
He's preparing the ground. Is that what it is?
They still in the line for a promotion as well, Wales, into Group A.
Yeah, they've got to play Turkey, of course,
away, which is not easy.
As Andy Brass will tell anybody.
Yeah, exactly.
But it's in their hands.
It is
because they can do it. All right, everybody. Coming up after this, Matt Letizia scores another penalty.
Oh, good.
Right, everybody, let's go to Manchester United before we go to the south coast of England. Sir Jim Ratcliffe has come in, of course. He's got, what is it, Ineos have got 25% of the club, something like that.
I think it's 27.7%, Marcus.
It's good to be precise. Good to be precise. Good to have that Thomas Tuchel detail about
that
it.
That 2.7% difference probably costs quite a lot of money, so they'd prefer it to be mentioned.
Indeed.
Yeah.
And we always want to bow to what they want.
Yeah.
There has been, it's all been a bit silly at Manchester United.
They've cancelled Christmas parties, Marcus.
They've cancelled Christmas parties.
They've had people eating lunch outside the toilet.
Yeah, they were told, can you, Manchester United have kind of hit a ceiling. Can you punch a hole in that ceiling? It turned out to be the stadium. It's all going wrong.
Yeah.
Some of the players they've signed, etc.
They've missed out on Thomas Tuchel, despite my best efforts.
Indeed. And Ratcliffe.
So far.
Ratcliffe was to come in and sort of put out fires, fix holes in roofs, calm
he hasn't
it down.
done that, though, has he? Has he already done that yet?
Goodness knows what he's doing, Luke.
Yeah.
But what he's also done this week is he's ended Sir Alex Ferguson's role as global ambassador at Manchester United. Will this prove to be a good move, Jim?
Yeah, well, there's been a mixed response, I think it's fair to say, if you look at the internet. But, I mean, Alex Ferguson was getting 2.16 million a year for an ambassadorial role for the last 11 years. Firstly, well done.
Yeah.
What a gig.
To be fair, though, if anyone's earned that,
Exactly. It's absolutely fair enough.
Yeah.
But 2.16 million a year is 11 weeks of Anthony. So as a cost-cutting measure,
I'd have got rid of Anthony. If I'm on deal or no deal with Noel, right, and one of the boxes has got Anthony's head in it, and the other one's got Sir Alex Ferguson's head in it, I'm saving Sir Alex Ferguson.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
I've had a lovely day, thanks, Noel.
Could you try and sell him as an ambassador?
Anthony?
No, Ferguson. Ferguson, because surely, I don't know, a Saudi Arabian club will come. We'll give you 50 million if you sell him and he'll be our ambassador.
Yeah.
I think they've missed a trick there.
Anthony would be an ambassador for something, for sure.
It might seem quite hollow if, Alex Ferguson starts being an ambassador for Everton. Do you know what I mean?
I don't think it works anywhere else. But I think the story here has been reported in a way which is like Ferguson out at United.
Yeah.
But actually, when you look into the detail, Ferguson was fine with it. He was still going to be on the board as a non-executive director. He's obviously got more money than he's ever going to spend.
But Ratcliffe didn't actually have to physically boot him out.
Nor
did he.
I think they discussed
sausage.
it. Yeah, I think they discussed it, and it was talked about, and that was fine. It was agreed upon. But my take on it is just that, in the form of a question for you guys, really, which is, certainly when he left as manager in 2013, his shadow loomed so large it became very difficult, right? Him being in the stadium every week, you have to travel down Sir Alex Ferguson Way to get to the stadium. Sir Alex Ferguson stands there. It's just everywhere.
Ole Gunnar didn't have a problem with that.
That was very hard. He loved it. He tapped into it in a way. But maybe it's necessary for the club to move on fully from that era for this to happen, or maybe it's just a symbolic money-saving thing that doesn't mean anything. What do you guys think?
The latter.
Okay,
yeah,
right.
I think the fact that they're also cancelling the staff Christmas party, which as a cost,
because the players' party will go ahead.
Yeah, sure. As a cost-cutting measure, surely that's not saving a huge amount. But they're being absolutely ruthless with that, and I think they're being essentially very sort of dispassionate about it, which is how essentially figures like that operate, right? Like it's the balance sheet is everything, and I think it's maybe been a little bit overblown because as you said, it's apparently mutual, and he's into his 80s now, Alex Ferguson. He might even think, oh God, I could stop going now.
He's had health,
it won't be that awful.
He's had health problems as well.
Right, yeah, as well. He probably wants to essentially do a little bit less.
He was delighted. What, can I just go once a month? Brilliant.
Yeah.
My favourite line from the news story is that you're talking about the fact that the staff party's been cancelled, which I think is obviously poor. And the players' party is a bit of a red herring because I think the players tend to pay for that themselves anyway. But this line from the story in The Sun is so good, which is, the party for the players is seemingly currently still going ahead. Should manager Erik ten Hag allow it after a nightmare start to the season? Because that's the thing that managers do, isn't it? Like the amount of times managers say, right, the Christmas party's cancelled because you've been too shit.
Is he aware of the Pulis naked headbutt?
Hopefully.
Maybe he'll repeat it on somebody. I mean, back to Alex Ferguson, I think he's never really spoken publicly about the Glazers, as he's always been, played his cards very close to his chest now.
He's an
It'd be very funny if that were to change now.
If it just flipped.
That'd
I
be
can
great.
say what I want now.
Yeah, that would be very good.
That would be very
so
good.
apparently they've stopped they've stopped putting on things like private cars and company credit cards and lunch and extra tickets and all that kind of stuff within Man United itself to save all this money. But I don't know. Part of me just thinks, like, when you're such a big club, how much of a cost does the negative PR? How do you quantify that for all the stuff that's coming out? Obviously, it depends how much of it is true, I suppose, but it's still being reported. So you're going to get a lot of negative press for that, which may offset how much money you're actually saving.
Who knows, everybody? Who knows? Well, we're going to finish the show with some better news. Matt Letizia scored a penalty at St Mary's this week. It was a stoppage time.
Is that better news, Marcus? Sorry to interrupt, but is that better news?
For a fine professional footballer who had a great array of goals, incredible penalty-taking ability, to see him back on the pitch in his natural habitat of Southampton Football Club, to get a stoppage time equaliser to make it 4-4 in a charity match between a Southampton 11 and a Russell Martin 11, which I did think was a Southampton 11. He was, especially as Ricky Lambert had missed a penalty earlier in the game, although Ricky Lambert did say after the game that's what they want you to think.
Yeah. You know, Matt Letizia and Ricky Lambert did complain at one point that the ball was flat.
Yeah. Well, Russell Martin's 11 did win the penalty shootout.
Oh, good.
Yeah. I like that.
They're up and running.
35-year-old Theo Walcott, who retired 18 months ago, was obviously just terrorising everybody.
Yeah, but that's the thing, though, isn't it? When you get into, say, veterans
football, over 35,
over 35, a 36-year-old and a 46-year-old is a bigger gap.
Let's just say some people fill their boots. But I would be interested to know the dynamics, and I'm sure there's plenty of Southampton fans listening to this who could tell me. It probably punctuated by a lot of swear words, but why Letizia is allowed back into the club now, because he was I think he was fired as an ambassador because of a lot of the stuff he said. He's obviously got some hugely problematic views, and yet he's now being welcomed back to the club again. I wonder why that is.
Maybe they're just open-minded, mate.
Maybe they are. Maybe they've done their own research after all.
Maybe.
But Ricky, because Matt Letizia is very much a gateway drug into Ricky Lambert.
Yes, Lambert's way more extreme.
Yeah, he is, and so it's interesting to see that he's been they're both being welcomed back. Maybe just football fans don't give a shit about it. They just want to see him play.
Yeah, but football brings people together, and this is what that's done.
Well, the best thing of this game, despite all of these weird little quirks that happened, was a competition winner scored one of the goals. He missed a penalty in the shootout, unfortunately, but he was on Russell Martin's team, so they won anyway. So what a day for him.
Yeah, I like it. And I like the fact that Grant Holt was in Russell Martin's 11.
Yeah,
wrestler Grant Holt.
Yeah,
you'll be unsurprised to know that I didn't click any of the links in the running order provided for more information about this, so I'll have to take your word for it, Jim.
Oh, you miserable.
You've got to do your own research, Luke. You know this.
I know.
Indeed, much like Ricky and Matt.
Exactly.
Before we go, everybody, the FA have indeed confirmed that the new England head coach will be Thomas Tuchel. He'll be assisted by an English coach, Anthony Barry, who, of course, Portugal assistant, Belgium. Doesn't matter. You're wrong, Luke. You're wrong.
I'm fuming with the FA. They couldn't even have the decency to let me get out of this studio first.
No.
They've done it early.
I love that. I think even they thought 1:30, the Ramble will be recorded by then.
Yeah.
Do we want to continue the curse? Let's shut the Luke Nation down forever.
Luke Nation, I need you now more than ever. Yeah, let's boycott that first game. It's nice to be officially wrong. It's the uncertainty I didn't like, Marcus.
True enough.
Now I can grieve.
No, you certainly look like you didn't like it.
Yeah.
Cheers for watching another fantastic clip from the Football Ramble podcast. Make sure you click like on this video and subscribe to the channel, which means you will not miss a single upload.